Yeah, so let me give an update. So some of the information I'm not going to reveal at this time. Again, there's more um, things to come out, and they will come out in due time when it's appropriate to do so. Some information I'm going to hold back for right now, but it will all come out. And we'll eventually have once we're like good and healthy and trading, and we'll have a postmortem that comes out that'll explain everything in much more detail than I can right in this moment. But I'll give what I can give. Um, so um, this has truly been like a multi-team effort, throughout this process. The Maya team has been mostly focusing on the like kind of Thor node stuff, right? If you want to call it that, like the plan to come back in terms of like, how to fill the $10 million hole in the protocol, for example. A few like code changes like that, trying to get the like network back up and like at least observing so that we can get but they get all the nodes to be like observing the other blockchains to the tip, so that we can churn. If you can't churn without that being the case, you have to observe the transactions and know what's actually in your vault to be able to churn to the next vault. So they've been working on that. I've been assessing them whenever I can. And then most of my time's actually been spending with the security team, and we've been doing a lot of like deep dive on threshold signatures and that kind of stuff. Um, and we brought in like a lot of people to help us with that process because we're getting really deep into the weeds of cryptography, like beyond my capability, to be honest with you. And even beyond some of our security team's capabilities, because it really needed some expertise and specialists that are beyond that. And so we reached out to the GG of GG20, the Goldfeather Gennaro. We reached out to them. We held some conversations with them, get some feedback on a few things. There are some security kind of, or rather, cryptographers we both brought in that are subject matter experts on specifically GG20 that are much more deeply understand the cryptography than me or anybody else in the team for that matter, because they're like top in the world in the context of GG20. And so we wanted to bring as much talent as we could in to get to the bottom of things. It took us quite a few days to actually really nail down where the actual issue was, and to make sure that the issue that we're finding is aligning with the data in the logs that we saw before the exploit, so that it all it fits in the story, right? Like it matches the behavior we saw of this, that, and the other thing. And so there will be like a deep dive into that too, as well, what is the issue? Where was it introduced in the code base? Why was it there? Didn't we patch it then? Blah, blah, blah. There's like a whole thing that I'll muscle kind of be diving into. And we're going to get more into that kind of in the future. But for right now, I'm just trying to keep it somewhat generic until everything's good. At this moment in time, we haven't actually patched the code on mainnet yet, right? We have the code ready probably today or tomorrow on the TSS side. We'll be deploying probably 319. Maybe we'll probably be making the cut probably tomorrow, and then start testing on StageNet, make sure everything still works and everything looks good, blah, blah, blah. And then releasing on mainnet, hopefully on Monday, maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, but we're looking to get that out quickly. And once that patch is done, then theoretically we should be able to churn. We should be able to the store migration of fixing all the $10 million hole, that would be actually already addressed in that version as well, and we can start churning, signing, trading, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully by the end of the week next week, we'll be kind of fully back online and trading and doing the thing that we do before, and we can carry on with our roadmap and the things we had planned, to do before all this craziness. So it's been a gargantuan effort on many fronts, and it's been a multi-team effort on many fronts to kind of nail down exactly what it is. One thing I wanted to mention is that for the time being, we're using a closed source version of the TSS library, just because there's a lot of changes that happened in this change, and we want to make sure that every change is strongly and well vetted. And so the team needs the security team needs probably another week or 2 weeks to go through that process. And so we'll probably leave it closed source for the time being. And then once they've gone through the full deep dive audit of the full cryptography from ground up, so to speak, then we feel confident about it, we'll be, switching it back to open source, probably in a few weeks, right? Just for security purposes, it's best to leave it closed source just for the time being until we can do a full audit. But from everything we've seen thus far, the code looks great as it is now. A couple more changes have to be made, but that'll be probably done by the end of the day today or maybe tomorrow. And then we're ready to cut 319 hopefully tomorrow as well and get online by next week.
So what was
Great.
in 318.1 then?
318.1 was so we have this this function called halt signing, which basically is just the network's ability to tell Bifrost, like, hey, just stop signing stuff. Don't be signing transactions. Just and that works very well for like outbound transactions, but it doesn't work very well. It kind of ignores UTXO consolidations where an EVM transactions get stuck and they have to broadcast the transaction to get unstuck. And until we actually knew with like 100% certainty, or at least close to 100% certainty as possible, that that the other vaults were not compromised, we didn't want to sign more transactions, because the way the attack kind of works is you have to ask for information from the other nodes through a key sign process, and then fail the key sign to trigger another key sign to get another another piece of data, and another piece of data, another piece of data, another piece of data, and you do like a bunch of times, and you do that enough times, you can extract the keys from the other nodes that is out there. So we didn't want to keep on signing transactions on the other vaults, just in the off chance that there is some malicious attacker that is existing on those other vaults, because that could be the case. You don't know that, right? And so we wanted to just make sure we're not like signing anything to potentially leak key information in the current code base. So we wanted to make a change to Bifrost so we asked nodes to shut down Bifrost, like to be absolutely sure nothing's going to be communicated. We're not going to try to do key signs. Shut down Bifrost for the time being, just out of an abundance of caution. Make a change to Bifrost so that we respect the halt signing kind of flag for not just outbounds, but also for UTXO consolidation and other types of transactions that we might sign. And then once that's the case, get Bifrost back online and getting all the nodes to observe, Bitcoin and XRP and all the other different chains, and get those to the tip so that it'd be ready for a churn once we get the code, changed and fixed before that point. We just want to make sure we wanted to get all the network up and running to the tip, and just so that the network is ready for us to make our code change and deploy that code change to the protocol. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Yeah, smart. Now you guys are taking safety very seriously. So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Is there any other teams that are affected by this exploit, or are you unable to, or you don't know that maybe?
No, we thought initially it was something novel, and after deeper diving, we don't think other libraries are exposed to it. We looked at a few of them; it looked fine. The ones that were exposed to it were like kind of dead libraries, right? Of like projects that are been dead for a long time and nobody's using that code anyway. And so it ended up not being something we needed to tell the other nodes, or not other nodes, other protocols. But it took us a while to figure out the details of how to even get to this place. Like, it's not something you could just like turn, this pathway is very complicated. It required top tier talent to even find the thing, like literally like some of the best GG20 cryptographers on the planet to come to help us figure out where this thing is. And yeah, so it required, you couldn't just like clod your way into this situation. I don't think. I mean, I tried to use Claude personally to find this thing, and it was not able to. In fact, I turned Hugin on to this code base to do a deep dive into it, and Hugin actually found another exploit that has nothing to do with any of the things that happened this past Friday. It actually found some other 0-day that existed in the code base since 2020. It was introduced in 2020. Like, that was before the original hacks, back in the day, in 2021. It was actually predating all of that. And after 2021, if people who were here at the time, there was like massive amount of talent that came forward to audit the code base, and nobody had found it back then, which is kind of funny. But Hugin had found it, and obviously it's patched now. But but that was another kind of like funny thing that in the effort to find this exploit, we actually had found something else.
It's
So this
crazy.
This attacker, he did use AI, right? Weren't there fingerprints all over the code that it was AI written?
Well, we don't know what his code looked like, right? I would agree that they had probably used AI because uh on the user on Discord, Dinosaurus or whatever the name was, he talked about Claude once a couple of times in his dialogue, so that would insinuate that they probably, if you're talking about Claude, you probably use it, right? Like maybe not necessarily, but likely. And it made me think like that it's possible this individual had access to Mythos. I don't know if that's the case or not, because I don't think that this issue would have been foundable or findable via Claude by itself. I think it's just too complicated, too layered, so to speak. Um, Maybe with certain aids or something like this possible. Like, I don't know. Who knows? But would Mythos be able to find it? Well, supposedly some of the attributes of Mythos is that it's able to find more complicated or layered issues, and so it would be much more capable, according to the description of what I've heard people say from blah blah blah. So I don't know if this person had access to Mythos or not. I have no reason to believe they did, really, to be honest. But it would make sense to some degree and fit in the puzzle piece to some degree. But I don't know that to be the case.
But even if they did, this person, they definitely know what they're doing. Like they get,
Yeah,
like they got to know their cryptography. Like this isn't just some rando using $200 a month Claude to figure something out.
I
This,
find
this
that highly improbable that it's just some rando who knows how to who knows how to write a prompt, right? Like I suggested I would suggest this person actually knew what they were doing and they have some experience in cryptography, but maybe I'm wrong about that. I mean, I've seen in this process, I've been contacted or DM'd many times from many different people, and some of them are anonymous, Twitter people who are, building AI bots that look for things and whatever. And some of them are like other teams, right? Other teams from other projects who have a dedicated MPC team or like threshold signing or multi-party computation um, teams reaching out with like, oh, I think I found it. It's this problem, right? And then like it was they're all saying the same thing, because even like back in 23 there were like two major exploits that came out for GG20. One was called TSS Shock and one was called Bitforge. And both of those problems were plugged for us back then. Um, One of the problems, it wouldn't even matter if we didn't plug it, because it required you to get like 1 million key sign failures in order to pull out the keys, and to get 1 million key sign failures within a churn is, I think it's pretty
dude, I feel like we've been close a few times. Those freaking key sign failures, man.
to get to 1 million is like a very large number.
I know,
I don't know it's
yeah.
practical, but in any case, so they thought that it was like one of these two or whatever. And it's funny because like we wanted to vet that as well. Like we did that. It was one of the first things we had done, is just like look at old, issues and just make sure we still patch those things. And in the process of doing so, not only me but also other security members were able to build proof of concept using ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, to build proof of concept that prove that Bitforge is still exploitable on THORChain's code base, and it obviously being a false positive, right? And you had to do a series of prompts after that fact to verify that the proof of concept is actually a proof of concept, which oftentimes it was not. So it gave not just me and the other engineers, but also people external to us at other protocols and other teams, and also false positives that it was Bitforge or TSS Shock or one of these earlier things. And that just wasn't the case here.
Hmm. Well, I'm a bit relieved that this wasn't some known bug or some patch. The library was updated a year ago somewhere else and we missed it or whatever.
Well,
It's nice to hear. Oh,
I'm not saying that, because like so when we THORSec had in the THORSec channel, we have like a private channel for like security conversations. Every time there was a Binance update on their library, there would be a push, like a notification to Discord saying, hey, there's a new change or whatever. And we would always treat that as like a 0-day, right? Because you don't know what the update is, you don't know what's being changed, right? You don't know like that kind of information. So we would always treat that as, okay, assuming there's a 0 day in this PR that's just being updated. And then the security team would go through the process of vetting that. And if there was issues in there that they saw that would be exploitable to us, then obviously we pull it in. And if there wasn't, we wouldn't. And I think some of these issues were, like I said, like, are really complicated and really, like, hard to find, and we might have missed some cases and scenarios. Like, again, I'm gonna get to more detail about that when the timing is right. But, like, there would be, it's a complicated thing that spanned a large amount of time to make it really hard to connect all the dots together, if you can say that.
Okay.
Understood.